teachers in Egypt or anywhere else. Welcome to the second session in our Back to School webinar series from IH Cairo. Tonight's topic is managing mixed ability classes. The idea being to give you a few ideas. Of course, we've only got 45 minutes, plus some time at the end for questions and answers, for Q&A. I can't speak English. But of course, in 45 minutes, we probably won't be able to solve all your problems, but hopefully give you a few ideas to take away or to adapt. So, Yalla Bina, I hope you're all very well and you've had something to eat. Try not to fall asleep, or if you do fall asleep, snore quietly. All righty. So, all righty. Okay. So, have a look at these lovely characters. Okay. So, see if you recognize anybody. Feel free to add your comments if you recognize any of these characters from a very old film now. For some of you, this is ancient history.
Yeah.
See if anybody can recognize them. I think some people are not here yet, but
I don't think I'm actually in the chat. Just a minute.
Yes, I can't see anything in the chat either. I'll just check. Okay, click on join the chat and maybe we will see some things. Okay. Hopefully we'll see something. Are we connected to the chat there, John?
Yeah, it's asking me about
because it's very quiet. Yes, there's something on connecting to YouTube, but I'm not sure if we need to connect to YouTube.
No.
Okay. Yes, apparently we're connected. So we'll just wait a moment to see if we get any comments.
Okay, I'm just going to say hello in the chat and let's see if that prompts us to go. But that's also in our private chat. Okay, I'm confused.
That's the private one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, John, we're having trouble. We're having trouble with the chat. We can't see any comments.
The joys of technology. We can only see private chat where we can chat to each other in the studio. Okay. Okay. He's all right. He says there aren't any comments yet, so maybe people are still having a snooze.
Okay.
Yes, there's only us so far.
Okay, we've got one. Okay.
Okay, good. Somebody said Harry Potter. So what about the characters? Can you name any of the others? Well done. I mean, of course, we can see Harry Potter is the most famous. Is there anybody else? I mean, there are 6 characters. Can you remember any of the names? I mean, Harry Potter is the name of the films, and Harry Potter is third on the right. What about his other school friends?
Okay, my account's still saying that I need to connect to YouTube in order to be able to comment. Okay, I'm going to connect and see what happens.
If you're not sure, I can tell you that the first one, okay, is Ron with the red hair. Okay. Yes, names are coming in. Yep. All righty. Well done. Oh, Aidan! Hi, wow, what a lovely surprise. It's Aidan from Ankara. Yo, that's an amazing surprise. Oh, well done, Aidan. I see we have another Harry Potter fan. Yes. Well, you said they're old ones. I mean, they're all the original because they're the younger. It's just when they're younger. So we've got Ron, Hermione, anybody else? Ya Aydan Cümyan seni çok seviyorum. Bize kurtardın. Hello, hello. Now, don't worry if you don't recognize the ones at the bottom. Probably the one you might recognize is Draco. Okay, Cedric is here. So the blonde-haired girl is Luna, and Cedric, yes, at the bottom there in the middle, he's the sporty one. Okay, and we've got Draco Malfoy. So if you could try and remember some of the names, try to remember what kind of students they are. What's Hermione famous for as a student? What kind of student is she? Well done. Summer's coming in there. She's getting the names. Yes. So what kind of student is Hermione? Does she do all her homework? I think the comments are coming in very slowly, or some of our people are not sure. Ah, yes, I don't. She's the teacher's pet, isn't she? So Hermione is the one that does all her homework. Yes, Daniel Radcliffe is the name of the actor. Yes, Harry Potter. He was his name is Daniel Radcliffe. But we're trying to think about how they are as students at Hogwarts. Good. So we've got Hermione is the teacher's pet. She does all her homework. She knows all the answers. She always revises for her exams. She knows everything. And she gets annoyed with the others because they don't study very hard. Yeah. So she's probably the most irritating of all the kids because she's always ahead of everybody else. She's the first one to put her hand up in class, where the others are looking at her like, okay. Okay, good. High achiever, yes. I don't really like the term high achiever because then the opposite of that is low achiever. And low achiever according to whom? But yes, let's say that she is a strong student at least, and that she's, she studies very hard. Okay. What about Ron? Do you think he's hardworking? Do you think he does all his homework? Yes, I don't have responsible. Hermione is very responsible. I know some of you might not have seen the films, but do you think Ron is a hardworking student? Him and Harry, do you think they were hardworking? Yes. So what kind of students do you think they were in the films? Do you think they did all their homework? Exactly. So yes, Ron and Harry actually were both quite naughty in class, probably quite limited concentration. They didn't do all their homework. They were often very behind because they didn't study properly. And they were often quite naughty in class. So they were quite disruptive. All right. Luna, you might not remember because she's not as famous as the others. She was a bit of in English, we call this person a bit of a space cadet. She's in her own world. Okay. She's intelligent and she studies, but she's kind of she's in the classroom physically, but mentally she's somewhere else. Okay. Cedric is very sports motivated. He's like the captain of the team, okay, for the Quidditch team, and he's mostly focused on sports. All right. Okay. So the last one is Draco Malfoy, who is quite horrible. Hi, Ingie. So he doesn't focus much in class either because he's too busy plotting on how to get his revenge on Harry and Ron because he hates them. All right. So think of these kinds of students in class. Is this an easy? Yes, well done, Ingie. I'm not alone as a Harry Potter nutcase. It's me. I confess I am a Harry Potter fan. So yes, she's intelligent and she I think she does most of her homework in the film, but she's definitely, somewhere else. She has a different perspective. So thinking of this as a classroom, you could have any of these students in your class. So are they all the same? And do you have any students like this in your own classes? The class clown, the goody two-shoes who does her homework, the student who is living on another planet, uh, the ones who are not, too busy doing other things, they're not focusing in class. Okay. And of course, there are lots and lots of reasons for this. Alrighty. So I was going to ask you to think of various adjectives to describe them, but because it was lagging a bit, I think. All right. Yes, we're not talking about Twilight. Twilight is something else. Okay, we're focusing on the Harry Potter characters. All right, because Twilight is a completely different series, and I'm also very ignorant about Twilight. Amanda is the Twilight expert, not me. I'm the Harry Potter monster because I've read all the books and watched all the films. All right. So the important thing is that these are all different types of students that we have in our class. Okay. And we talk about mixed ability, but actually, I think we should just call it a class because every class is mixed ability. It doesn't matter how much streaming you do and how many, tests you ask the students to take. Basically at the end of the day, they're all pretty much, they will all be different. You can guarantee that. So I think we should perhaps just call it a class. All right. But of course, we have to recognize that everybody has different abilities in any classroom. Obviously, from a language perspective, some students will be very good at grammar, some students will be good at vocabulary, some students are good at writing, some students are good at reading, some students are good at speaking or feel more comfortable speaking. Some students find listening exercises easier. Blah, 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 blah. I mean, everyone is different. So I think we should perhaps, I'm beginning to think that we really shouldn't talk about mixed ability anymore, but just sort of call it a normal classroom. All right. But we should think of different ways of dealing with it. Okay. Because whatever class you teach, and I found even after 38 years, that they are all different because you've got lots of different people in the class. I'm old enough to have been part of a streaming system when I was in the UK at secondary school. They put us in different levels for maths, English, and stuff like this. But even when they did that, we were still different. Okay. Guess which stream I was in for maths?
Yeah, me too.
Like most English teachers, right at the bottom. I was rubbish. And I probably still am, like many English teachers. I just have to live with that. All right. So, everybody's different. Everybody's has got different personalities, different ways of learning things. I mean, never mind multiple intelligence, talk about learner preferences. Everybody learns things in different ways. So the best that we can do is try to accommodate it. So I'm just going to throw up some ideas and see what you think. And you can ask questions and Amanda will keep an eye on that. All right. So differentiation, we talk a lot about that. And in fact, we should be, because differentiation really means dealing with students with different types of abilities. Okay, so the task is writing. Okay, and there are different ways of doing that task according to the students. Okay, so you've got, it's writing about pets. So for the students who struggle with writing, they could have a gap fill. I have a dog. It's brown. Okay. So we give them something. So we're scaffolding the task. All right. So we're giving them some ideas. Maybe we could have 3 or 4. We'll come back to that question because there are so many, Ahmed. I think actually it's very difficult to classify students, really. I think the thing that every teacher in the world will tell you is that some students learn better by listening, some students learn better by doing, some students like to see things, um, you know, and there's also a whole host of other learning types as well. All righty. So some students need more support, and this is an example of one. It's very simply scaffolded, okay? And thank you, Amanda. Um, you know, or if students are a little bit stronger, then you could give them some words from your word bank or your word box. This could be virtual, it could be on the computer, it could be, using your smartboard. It could be maybe you have a little word bag or whatever in class. And the students can write 3 or 4 sentences, maybe 2, 3, 4, up to them. All right. Stronger students, okay, they could write their own paragraph about their pet and add, more vocabulary like adjectives or reasons. I've got a dog. It's a golden retriever. It's light brown and fluffy. I love him because dot 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 dot. Okay, so everybody's doing the same thing, but in the way that they can do it. All righty. So these are probably one of the most useful things that you can do is give students the same task, but give them different ways of doing it, different options. Okay, and this comes back to an old adage, don't simplify the text, simplify the task. And Aidan has just made an excellent point, as per usual. We are very lucky to have Aydan with us. She is a professor at a university in Turkey and has zillions of years of experience of training teachers all over Turkey for the Turkish government, and she runs a very important teachers association. So we are extremely fortunate. So personally and professionally, hoş geldin. We're very happy to see you. Okay, another one. Here we go. Whoops, good morning. This is also for reading. So we've done writing. Okay. So if we want the students to answer the questions, we can give them, for example, and my feelings about the evil Egyptian multiple choice. This is a good example where it could be useful because multiple choice provides options. Okay. So if there are 5 questions or 4 questions with multiple choice, then the ones who are struggling can guess at least, even if they're not sure. All righty. Students who are slightly stronger can do true, false, and then afterwards you can have them say why it's true, why it's false. So there's a bit more thinking, more analysis going on. Stronger students can try to find 3 advantages of having a pet in the text, of course, depending on what the text's about, and they have to write whether they agree or disagree. All righty. So again, everybody's got the same text, but they respond to it in different ways. Okay. So one for writing, one for reading. We'll carry on because I don't want to go over. Okay. So you can have your 3 levels of success, sort of a must, a could, and a challenge. So if it's a must, then everybody should be able to do it. Okay. So it requires lower level thinking, analytical skills, lower level thinking skills, if you like. It doesn't take too much. Could be a bit more difficult, and challenge is stronger. So if it's, for example, speaking, okay, so say 3 things you do every day. So lower level, I wake up, I get up, I have breakfast, okay? So everybody can do that, all right? Maybe what time? I usually get up at 6 o'clock. Okay, I usually have breakfast at 8 o'clock. I sometimes have so a very simple, exercise. I mean, we've been doing those for years and years, so they're easy to adapt. And the stronger students, the ones who may be more now stronger doesn't always, confident doesn't always mean stronger. So we also have to be careful with that one as well, because we have confident students and shy students, and we know from experience quiet students are not always weak. As we say in English, still waters run deep. So do be careful. And I have to be careful myself. So stronger students can say what they like and don't like doing. Oh, I get up at 6 o'clock every morning. I hate it because I have to take the school bus and it's very long and boring and da, 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 da. Okay, so we're creating more challenge according to the level. All righty. So that's another idea. All right, there you are. Amanda's just made a really important point, and she's very clever. All righty. I, believe it or not, I was once a very quiet student. I was a nerd like Hermione, but very quiet. A quiet nerd. You cannot believe this now. I'm very different from when I was at school. Nobody believes me, but you have to ask my mum. I was extremely shy, but I always sat at the front, and I was a right little nerd. I took down notes and did all my homework and stuff like this. I'm not sure if I'd be a very good student now. All righty, this is old. You know, old can be gold, but you know, grouping, pairing students. All righty. Now, particularly in a project, this can work because you can give them different roles. You know, the reader, the writer, the speaker, the checker, the artist. You know, if it's a school project, maybe somebody who's good at drawing because maybe they're not great at English, okay, but they might be good at drawing. So give them something. Yes, I'm bubbly now, but I wasn't when I was a kid. So this is something for everybody. So if you're grouping students up for a project or even some tasks, you know, in class. So this could even work with a reading text, a writing text. Okay, but it is important to move the students around because some students realize what you're doing. Okay, students are always clever, especially if you're teaching kids. The late bloomer. Yes, my stomach is blooming beautifully. I think I've got 2 now. Thank you. Yeah, Jenna. So students start to realize that, you know, oh God, I've got to work with the idiots again. Why is it always me? I don't want to help the others. All righty. So move them around, change them around. But also the alternative is you don't always have to have stronger and weaker. You know, sometimes it's easier to put the stronger students in groups, the weaker students in groups. Then it's easier to monitor and help where necessary. All right, because the stronger students can probably get on with something, you know, if it's a writing task, for example, or reading, and maybe they don't need so much help. Doesn't mean to say we're not going to help, but we don't have to give as much help. But with the weaker group or groups, depending on class size, the teacher can then focus on those students and help them out a bit more. So we don't always have to mix them up. Okay, I know we've always been taught to mix them up, and there are good reasons for doing it. You know, they can help each other, but sometimes if you're a weaker student with some strong students, you might feel very intimidated because you know that you're not as good as the others. So you might feel so intimidated you don't say anything, right?
Yeah, especially if you're already a quiet student.
Yeah. So quiet and weak, you're like,
yeah.
Oh, thank you. The cat has decided to join in. Rita, are you agreeing or disagreeing? All righty. So do bear these things in mind. You know, we've often been advised to mix up strong and weak, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not always necessarily a good thing. This comes back to knowing your class because the only one who knows. And Aidan mentioned something, you know, important earlier. You know, they can classify themselves. Why don't you get the students to set up the groups? I mean, we talked about motivation, you know, the week before last. You know, choice, especially with teenagers. They can decide on their own groups. I mean, I know sometimes that, you know, they'll choose their friends and things like this, but you can even set down conditions. You know, you can choose 2 people you know very well, 1 person you don't know so well, and someone you'd like to get to know a bit more. Okay, you don't have to be, you know, things can be quite straightforward. All righty. I know I'm whizzing because I'm always going over time, so I don't want to have you sleeping. All right. Again, this is quite an old one, an old but gold. You can have, first you produce your worksheet, okay, in its entire form. Then you can adapt it, so you don't have to do too much extra work. So if your worksheet is answering questions from a reading or grammar questions or whatever, so for the stronger students, you have the open-ended questions so that there's more, do you mind? Thank you. Sorry, the cat keeps going all of a sudden. She does this when I'm on the phone. So open-ended questions obviously allow for more creativity and for the stronger students to be able to express themselves. For the middle students, gap fills and, short writing task. Okay. For students who are struggling, for the weaker students, you could have some words and they could do maybe a picture matching. Okay. So one worksheet, but you can have 2 or 3 versions. All righty. So my advice is always do the entire one first, and then it's easy with Word or whatever to then, copy paste. So you don't have to do too much extra work. I've just put a note at the bottom. So maybe you can have different colors, blue group, red group, pink group, whatever. So again, that students don't feel, oh God, we got the easy ones because the teacher thinks we're stupid. Okay. Or the stronger ones thinking, yeah, that's the stupid group. They can't do the difficult stuff. Okay. And as Amanda has wisely mentioned, AI can do all this for you, actually. In fact, I tried it just before the session. I didn't finish it, but it did do a really good job. So tell it exactly what to do. AI can help you. This is where, using your real intelligence to deal with artificial intelligence. Remember, real intelligence is always the best, and you decide how suitable it is. All righty. Okay. So that's another example. You can do the same with dictation. So you can have, a completely blank piece of paper for strong students. And then for, again, middle students, you can have a gap fill. All right. And then for the weaker students, they just circle the multiple choice options. So again, everybody can do it. So this is an old technique. There you are, old is gold in this situation.
Ashley, right. Can I just
yes,
say something,
please.
Laura? Because I was trying to remember an activity that Liz, our colleague Liz, did with a group of students ages and ages and ages ago, and it was basically a dictation. So so the stronger students had more gaps to fill, and the weaker or less able students had most of the text already complete. And so it was a kind of a mutual dictation. So they had to, the ones who were that had the most of the text were reading out the information. And of course, they didn't realize that the others didn't have the same thing as them. And so, of course, at that point, it was the less able students who were actually helping the more able students, because without each other, they couldn't do the task. It was a really nice idea. And I've used it a lot since. I think it works really nicely.
Absolutely. I think that's brilliant because it shifts the roles, doesn't it?
Exactly.
That's really, really nice. So the weaker students suddenly feel like, oh, actually, I'm quite good now. I'm helping the ones who are supposed to be better at English than me.
Yeah, and of course they don't realize that their sheets are different.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it? Because it's motivating the students.
Yeah.
So absolutely. So open-ended speaking tasks. You can have, if you're describing a picture, for example. Again, depending on your level, on how you function, if you're describing the picture, weaker students, 1 or 2 words, they don't have to make a full sentence. Okay. Stronger students or medium students can start to make a short sentence. Stronger students can make longer sentences. All righty. Sentence headers, I call them sentence headers, some people call them sentence starters. Scaffold, again, if you scaffold, your students can produce quite a lot, sort of like the question is, what do you like about the picture? If you just write on the board, I like it because, or I don't like it because, and then for stronger students, what I like about this picture is, okay, so you can scaffold. If you produce, it's back to the thing, the old, I'm always saying this, with productive tasks, don't expect students to produce something from nothing. Okay, so give them something to work with, and then you'll find that they can produce more than you think. All righty, so that's that one. Sorry, I'm just rushing through. All right. Now, if you're teaching the little ones, songs, rhymes, stories, actually even older students for stories, for example. Okay. Um, because again, the students can respond in different ways. Let's say they've done you've done a song, they can draw the words, they can uh, sing or mime the words with gestures. Gestures? I cannot speak English. Um, I think I've been talking to somebody saying gestures and I'm copying it. So they can sing or mime. Again, sometimes you've got some really good singers in your class and you didn't know. Um, this is what's brilliant about having a class of students, because everybody's got so many different abilities and talents that you didn't know about. Um, you know, mime games, charades, guessing the verb, so there are lots and lots of things, and if it's non-verbal, that's less stressful for the weaker students because they're not expected to produce. All righty. Many of you have done the enormous elephant story with me, where I tell the story and the students do the mime. Okay. This is totally receptive TPR. The students listen and they just do the actions. Nobody has to say a word. But I can adapt it by getting the students to, one half of the class to say a line from the story and the others act it out. All right. I can add more lines to the story for stronger students. They can say more and the others can act it out. So it's very versatile. Stronger students can retell the story. Same with, role plays. You can give shorter or longer roles. Okay. I wasn't sure how to upload this one because StreamYard doesn't like Word documents, but I've got a dialogue. It's a restaurant dialogue. And just to give you an idea, so there's a waiter and 3 or 4 kids in the restaurant. Okay. So the waiter says, "Good morning." I'll give you the lines from the waiter. "Yes, here you are." And the waiter says, "Large, medium, or small. And would you like a dessert?" Okay. So the waiter has the shortest speaking tasks, okay? The shortest sentences to say. There are other ones where one of the kids says, "Oh, I'd like a pizza and a Coke, please. And I want a medium Coke." All right. So I can give that to a stronger student. So role plays are very good for doing that because you can adapt, you can decide. All right. But also coming back to the quieter student, you see another classification. Maybe the quiet student is actually good at English. You can give them the longer speaking parts, so that they speak more, because often they're quite good, but they don't like to show off. All right. Okay, said that there. Same. They're kind of two together. All righty. Now, early finishers. So there are lots of things you could do with early finishers. You could have sorry, this is small to show you on the screen. This is an activity box. When I was teaching regular classes, I'd have one of those photocopy paper boxes. All right. And it was decorated. And I got my students to decorate it as well. Covered it in colored paper, stars, stickers, you name it, everything was there. All right. So you can have an activity box. You can even have an activity bag. Okay, whatever is easy to carry to class, because this depends where you're teaching. Do you have your own classroom, or do you have to keep running around? When I was living in Turkey, poor Turkish teachers, they have to run from one class to the other. They're like Olympic sprinters carrying all their stuff, which is quite miserable. Right, so students who finish things early, again, depending on the level, 3 sentences about something, depending on what you've just been teaching. If it's a grammar lesson, a writing lesson, a vocab lesson, choose 3 words you like and write sentences with them. Draw and label your dream room. Sometimes you see the students who are weaker finish the tasks quickly because they don't know what else to do. All righty. Find 5 verbs in your reading text that you would like to learn. Maybe make sentences from them or make a mini conversation from them. Design a crossword. Okay. There are lots of websites they can do that on. They can either do it on paper, write questions they would like to ask. There are zillions of things. I mean, just because of time, I'm trying to keep it very simple. And of course, they can choose. We talked about choice boards in the motivation session. So, you could have a class choice board. There is one other option that we don't often assign to early finishers, the option to do nothing. Okay. Sometimes early finishers or fast finishers feel that they're punished for finishing things quickly. I mean, sometimes we know that students who finish things quickly haven't always finished it correctly. So the first thing we're going to say is, have you checked? And okay, right, check. But if they've checked and done it right, so this is your reward for finishing early. I'll give you more work. Excuse me. So is this a reward or a punishment? So sometimes we have to make it into a reward. Okay. Amanda's also said you could have a virtual activity box. It doesn't have to be a real one. Easier to carry. Very, very important. Okay, excuse me. Suddenly the air's gone a bit dry, so I'm just going to have to drink some more water. Excuse me. Make sure I'm not going glug, glug, glug through the microphone. All right. But I actually sometimes allow students to do nothing, and say, you can just sleep for 5 minutes, just rest, as long as you don't disturb the others. That's the deal. You're allowed to do nothing for a few minutes, as long as you don't distract the others. But if they do, then they have to choose. Okay, so with teenagers, because they're kind of like, you're making me do extra work because I finished early, hate you. I say, okay, yeah, you can do nothing for a few minutes, but don't disturb everybody else. Super important. Alrighty. These kinds of things work particularly well with teens and tweens. Again, because teenagers like to have choices. You can go back to the old sort of learning stations. All right. So different groups can be doing different things. All right. Or you can have different material on different desks. This is, this depends on you. All righty. Easy to say, another thing to do. So you can have some listening material in one section of the room. Okay. They can have some role plays or conversation tasks on another table. A writing corner. What they write, again, it depends on the task that you want to give them. I'm a big fan of making big books. That's really good if you're teaching little ones. But mini booklets are absolutely fine. Exactly. Idan made a brilliant point. They sometimes pretend they haven't finished so they don't get extra work, which comes back to my thing, because sometimes it feels like a punishment. It's like, well, I did it first, I did it all right, so why are you giving me extra work, ya haram? That's not fair. Okay, so you can have a game corner, maybe some, vocab games. Well, teenagers can be a nightmare if we don't show some respect, let's say. Teresa Dorwelly, a very dear friend and highly esteemed colleague, always reminded me that we need to show teenagers respect, even if we don't respect them, because they feel very strongly about this. They feel that they're not listened to. All right. So we've got to find ways of making things look like choices. I mentioned this in the motivation session. Whenever teenagers think they're being told what to do by older people, then the wall goes up. And then they become an absolute nightmare. All righty. I'm not saying they're sweetness and light, because they're not. They are challenging, but we need to listen to them, find out a bit about what they want and how we can help. All right, and try to give them, choices. Learning stations are another way to deal with that. It doesn't have to be every week, maybe once a semester, once a term. This will all depend on your curriculum. If you're teaching at a language school, language center, you might have more freedom. If you're teaching at a mainstream school, you won't have as much freedom, because you've got a load of things to do because of all the exams and everything that goes with it. Okay. But technology is good for that, like the game corner, things like word wall, making little discussion wheels, making matching tasks. The reason I haven't shown you, again, because it's difficult to show in StreamYard. So just to save any disasters, I haven't uploaded them, because it seems to like PowerPoint and PDF. So bear with me on that. But I think many of you know word wall. Word wall is an absolute dream for many teachers, because it's an idiot's guide. Okay. Oh, thank you for that. It decided to upload. That was the dialogue I was talking about earlier. But we don't need that now. Thank you. John, did you put that up for me?
He did.
Okay. We need to go back a bit. Okay. All right. So to finish off, okay, remember we mentioned this in the motivation session, because motivation and mixed ability dealing with, different types of students, they're kind of together. So, encourage your students, have a little progress chart, because you also want your students who maybe were weaker at the beginning to become stronger, because if we keep giving them, opportunities to shine, then later you might find that they can do the more difficult tasks. They might say, oh, teacher, can I do this one, please? Yes, of course. So keep an eye on your students, listen to them, because they might decide they don't always want to do the easy stuff. All right. So that's very important. Okay, so come back to that progress chart. I've got that one. That was the task. The homework choice board, again, you can, provide a mix of difficult and more challenging, simpler and more difficult tasks, okay, for the students, okay, because this, again, is motivating, okay, so that it's not just, you have to do this. Choice boards, you can have class choice boards, you can have homework choice boards. And IDAN, as always, has made a brilliant point of, here, students feeling respected and valued, then they participate more. They don't participate well when you're doing I'm the teacher, you do what I say. Once you go down that road, lost. It's very difficult to bring them back, okay? Because teenagers do not like authority. And it doesn't matter which country you're from, teenagers are the same the world over. The last thing they want is to be told what to do by adults, because they think adults are stupid and annoying. Okay. Remember, when you're a teenager, you know everything. Nobody can stop you. You are the fountain of all knowledge. All right. So just some references there. And you're nearly at the time to relax. So if you've got any questions, any comments that you need us to deal with, I actually need it finished on time, because I keep going over, so I was really worried about this. So feel free to throw questions in. If not, you can do what my cat Ramses is doing. Ramses is showing you that, having a horizontal pause in your life is always a good thing, because he spends most of his time doing this. So I think okay. Thank you very much. All righty. Oops. Thank you, Idan Jim. Amazing to see you. Hopefully we'll get back to Turkey and sometime and join you. That would be fantastic. Long time since we've been to Ankara.
Very long time.
Isn't it? Got years, isn't it? Because we went back last year, we went back to Istanbul, but we didn't get to Ankara because we had to do something in Istanbul, so we didn't have time, unfortunately. All righty. Well, if people haven't got anything to ask us, then maybe we can do the horizontal pause. We'll give you another sort of 40 or 50 seconds, and don't worry if hopefully you've got a few reminders. I don't believe I said anything new. New is always a relative concept. So hopefully a few reminders, and we'll make this presentation available after the session. All righty. So we'll leave you in peace so that now you can enjoy your horizontals. Thanks for joining the session. We hope to see you next week. We are trying to make this a weekly event. So 2 weeks ago we did motivation. This week we did managing mixed ability. And if you have suggestions about sessions that you'd like to see, we can always bear that in mind as well. All righty. Yeah. So I think we can leave everybody and release you into your natural habitats. Have a very nice evening.
Yes, have a great evening, everybody. Bye-bye.
Exactly. Bye.